In October of 2000, 10-year-old Heather Thomas was last seen riding her bike outside of her dad's house. 3 weeks later, she was found deceased in a lake. The person who did this was her 23-year-old neighbor who she knew. I'm going to take you over to where she was last seen and tell you more about this case and about 10-year-old Heather. This case hits home because it happened in my hometown, the place where I grew up, and Heather wasn't that much younger than me. I'm about 3 years older than Heather. So of course, whenever I drive past this house or this housing complex, I can't help but think of her, and I can't help but wonder what Heather would have become if she didn't have this thing happen to her. Heather disappeared October 1st, 2000, was last seen alive riding her bicycle outside her father's Surrey townhouse on a Sunday afternoon, straight along here, or even in this parking lot here. 3 weeks later, her body was found floating in a lake in Golden Ears Provincial Park. 10-year-old Heather lived or was visiting her dad in the complex. Now, I don't know if her parents were divorced or if she lived with her mom, or she lived with her dad, but she was in this area and she was riding her bike. The name of her neighbor that did this doesn't deserve to get named because he doesn't deserve that attention. He was 24 years old, so he was of age, and of course, her being 10, she was a minor. She was minding her own business, riding her bike because her dad had lived in this complex. He approached her, asked if she wanted to look at some pictures. She's like, oh yeah, of course, because, it was her neighbor. So she goes inside to look at some pictures that he had. And that's when he decided to do something to Heather. Heather refused, said no, did whatever she could to decline his advances. From what I read online, he had strangled her. He denied everything. He was like, I didn't do it. Eventually, he confessed, and he gave the police a timeline of what happened. So this is what the events as confirmed by the neighbor. And I'm not going to say who the neighbor is, because he doesn't deserve the attention. He had lured Heather into his apartment to look at pictures of birds. He coaxed her onto the floor and was spooning her. He attempted to take off her clothes, and she began to struggle. And he put his hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. He didn't say how long he did it for, but she was likely dead before her dad was able to call 911. After he killed her, he dumped out his hockey bag and put her in the bag along with her clothes. He carried her through the fence to his nearby car, placed her in the back seat, and drove out of the complex. Upon driving out and looking east, he saw the police doing radar traffic enforcement and circled behind using the secondary roads to eventually get over to another city. He needed gas and stopped at the gas station. He drove further up the road when the idea came to him to buy a theater ticket as he rapidly concocted his cover story. He thought of going to Maple Ridge, which is a few towns over, because of the distance away. As he drove into the park, he got a few miles in, pulled over, and then put the bag containing Heather into the thick woods. He then left the park, and then he returned to retrieve the bag containing Heather, and then headed down to a boat ramp where he got in and paddled out of sight of those who may be on the boat launch. He then put Heather in the water and weighed it down with rocks. 3 weeks later, she was found in the water. On November 22nd, 2000, the neighbor appeared in court and pleaded not guilty to the charge of first-degree murder. Eventually, he got an automatic life sentence without chance of parole for 25 years. After 15 years, he applied for early parole under the Faint Hope Clause and was denied. He is now scheduled to be up for parole in 2025. He will be 48 years old when he is eligible to walk free. After hearing evidence for 3.5 months in high-profile gut-wrenching murder case, the jury of 10 men and 2 women took only 5 hours to decide that the man, the neighbor, murdered Heather. He continued to insist he was innocent after hearing the verdict. Moments before being sentenced to life in prison, he said he did not kill Heather. He did this to Heather. He deserves to rot in hell, rot in prison. he took a life. You can find articles about Heather online. The articles that I'm reading off of on my phone, I will link them in the description box below so you can read them yourself and get more into detail. There's a fence along here, and after she was found, this got turned into a fence of hope. It was covered in flowers, a memorial for Heather. So this entire thing is covered from front to back in memory of Heather after she was found. So she was either riding her bike on the sidewalk just outside there, or she was riding it around here. I'm not sure if it was the complex in front of me or if it was in this complex where it happened. And I'm not sure which one she lived in or which one he lived in. But it kind of goes back all the way down there. So it happened in any one of these, but I know that it happened in this complex. And I remember as a kid seeing this fence being covered in flowers for Heather. I'm about 3 years older than Heather, and it could have easily been me. It could have been somebody that I knew. It could have been somebody that I would just go with. She was in this town when she was last seen. She was in this area. She was in this parking lot. She was in one of these houses when she died. And it took 3 weeks to find her because some scumbag didn't get what he wanted. And he ended a life because of it. The memory of these flowers on this fence and knowing that she was younger than me when it happened makes her heart break, but she had so much potential in this life, in this world. And it was cut short because of some scumbag. And he deserves to rot in hell, and he deserves to get everything bad happen to him in life. So rest in peace, Heather. You are loved, you are missed, and I wish you were here to accomplish so much. You would have gone far, you would have done great things in your life. And I'm sorry that this happened to you.